There were no cellmates to talk to at 4 a.m. on Thanksgiving as I waited for the breathalyzer in the Keller City Jail. I imagined the conversation my wife was having with her mother at the moment. It couldn't have been pleasant. My bond was $287, but our ATM capped withdrawals at $200, and my wife and I didn't have any cash on us. So it was either borrow the remaining $87 or come up with a plausible reason why I never showed up for the holiday meal. This was not the first time I'd disappointed my mother-in-law, Brenda, a prim school principal in a pastel, sharp-shouldered business suit. But it was among the most spectacular of my failures. Her daughter was my first serious girlfriend, and it was a feverish, obsessive love. I was barely 19 when I proposed, weeks after we met, and she was pregnant within a month. It was years before anyone believed the engagement and pregnancy really happened in that order. Up to now, I didn't think I could get any lower in Brenda's eyes than when she'd walked into our apartment unannounced and found her granddaughter happily sucking away at the pacifier that had been scotch taped in place. Come on, I had to study. It's not like I superglued it. But I probably wasn't a promising son-in-law to begin with, bouncing from janitorial work to KFC delivery to petroleum terminal maintenance to construction work and so on. This while studying at a fine but less than prestigious university to earn an English degree I'd employ in the auspicious field of print media. I was a disorganized slob with a nose ring, a walking reminder of how different her daughter had turned out from her. But she saw that however ham-handed I could be as a husband and dad, I was at least there. Even after I landed a newspaper job, we still lived check to check. And my window-tinted, banged-up 1991 Caprice Classic, which my public defender mom called a probable cause mobile, tended to attract unwanted attention from law enforcement. For much of my 20s, this was a cycle. I couldn't afford registration or a repair necessary to pass inspection, and vowed to take care of it next month, and then the next month. Eventually, I'd get pulled over. Of course, I couldn't pay the fine either, and the debt doubled when the deadline passed and the state, county, city, or JP precinct issued an arrest warrant. If you thought debtor's prison was a thing of the past, I envy your naivete. We were to spend Thanksgiving 2002 with my mother-in-law, her boyfriend Chuck, and various others from that side of the family. My wife and our now 6-year-old daughter and 9-month-old son went the day before to stay at Chuck's place in Keller. I wanted to visit friends who were back in Dallas for the holiday. The old gang met at our usual hangout to drink beer, smoke pot, and argue about music, politics, and whose turn it was to load the next bowl. I curtailed my intake around midnight, and by 2 a.m. felt steady enough to make the hour-long drive from Dallas to Keller. Secure the radio would keep me awake on the highway from city to suburb as I mentally transformed myself from carefree, half-stoned kid to responsible father of 2. In those days, I thought I could only be one or the other. A few miles from the exit to Chuck's, I spotted the silhouette of a police cruiser behind me. Upon exiting, I warily traced the tangled country road through Chuck's neighborhood, the Crown Vic still behind me, a coiled predator. Panic crept in as I turned onto Chuck Street and realized I couldn't pick out his house in the dark. I called my wife, praying the phone would wake her. "I'm being followed by the police," I blurted when she finally picked up. "Which house is it?" But I'd already passed it and was nearing the end of the street where I'd have to circle back around the block. I signaled to left, came to a 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi stop, and was turning the wheel when the cruiser's light rack lit up. "They're going to arrest me," I told my wife, and described my location, begging her to hurry. I pictured the cops rifling through the glove box, sorting through the trash on the floorboards, and finally dumping out my overnight bag to find $20 worth of dope in my dop kit. "Driver, step out of the vehicle," crackled the bullhorn. I complied, locking the car behind me. What I didn't know then is nobody ever passes a field sobriety test. So, in the woozy red and blue throb and the blinding spotlight glare, I performed my best heel-to-toe balancing act. I thought I did an outstanding job. My wife arrived and argued with the other officer until the inevitable, the words I was certain would ruin my life. "You are under arrest on suspicion of driving under the influence." My Miranda rights droned at the outer edge of my consciousness as the handcuffs clicked in place, pinching a tad too tight. I was focused on my wife's animated conversation with the other officer. Finally, she turned and walked toward my car, unlocked it, and swung open the battered door. No impound, no search, My wife shot to the top of my Thanksgiving things I'm grateful for list. An officer laid a hand on my head and guided me into the squad car's backseat cage. On the drive to jail, I had to ask, "Why did you pull me over?" "You failed to signal intent to turn within 100 feet of an intersection," monotoned the driver. "You were following me a lot longer than that," I said. "Why?" His voice softened. "There have been some break-ins recently, and your car didn't fit in this." At the police station, I was cooperative, all yes sir and no sir, but insisted I wasn't intoxicated. They offered to test my blood alcohol content, but even if I got out of the DUI, they wouldn't let me go without the $287 bond. After about 2 hours, the breathalyzer technician finally entered my cell. He told me to take a deep breath and blow steadily into the mouthpiece. It was one impossibly long exhalation. "Keep going," he said, even after I was dizzy. Finally, he nodded. I gasped for breath, then had to do it again. The tech studied the machine, then fixed an eye on me. .06, he said, under the legal threshold. Later, I wondered if the testing delay was an act of kindness or pity, if they gave me enough time to ensure I passed as a reward for my docility or apology for the horseshit traffic stop. After she was finally able to bail me out, my wife handed me a cup of coffee and a bag of donuts as we walked out into the cold pink sunrise. Neither of us had much to say beyond my meek apologies. Thanksgiving dinner was at the country home of a knotted old woman whose relation to the family I still don't grasp. I've never liked turkey, but this year's was especially dry and flavorless. Just as dull was the polite chatter of near strangers asking each other about their rumored accomplishments. I wasn't about to wade into deeper conversational territory by asking so-and-so how they were holding up after the divorce or quizzing you-know-who about her latest baby daddy, and certainly not by volunteering my own jailhouse anecdotes. With sunset, we departed after agreeing to a couple monthly installments to pay Brenda back the $87. The $200 we were already at was enough on its own to ensure an overdraft fee. 10 years later, some things have changed, some haven't. My wife and I have separated, and the memory of her distant relatives is fading to a faint impression. I keep my stickers current. I pay my traffic fines. But I still get lightheaded when I see police behind my car. At family gatherings, I still find excuses not to diverge from shallow conversation into any topic that could make anyone uncomfortable. And I still hate turkey.